Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Samantha Voon, and let's start with taking a look at the summary of market actions. So over in Asia Pacific, markets commenced Wednesday on a lower note despite key upticks in Wall Street benchmark subsequent to the US Fed Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's accommodating remarks. In his testimony, Powell's cautioned against keeping interest rates excessively high, expressing the risk that reducing policy restraints too little or too late could unduly weaken economic activities and employment. So in the US overnight, the S&P 500 attained a new high on Tuesday post-Powell statement, making its 36th record finish this year. Currently, the S&P 500 is at $5,576.98. Meanwhile, in Nasdaq, the Nasdaq Composite rose by 0.15%, closing at $18,430.56, also setting a record for the day, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average slightly decreased by 0.13%. So over in Asia, attention is on forthcoming inflation updates from both China and Japan, particularly China's anticipated release of consumer and producer prices data for June. Projections suggest a minor uptick in China's inflation to 0.4% from May's 0.3%, alongside a prediction softer decline in its PPI at 0.8% versus the 1.4% drop seen in May. Looking at specific indexes, we see the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index futures open at 17,579, and in Australia, the S&P ASX 200 faced a slight 0.14% decline. Over in India, the Nifty 50 remains unchanged. In Singapore, the STI is up 0.62%, while in Malaysia, the KLSE is up 0.16%. So now let's have a look at Japan. The Japanese market, we have the Corporate Goods Price Index, the CGPI release, and this number monitors the price fluctuation of goods traded within the business sector. Aligning with predictions, the index did climb to 2.9% year-on-year in June, escalating from its revised 2.6% in May. Furthermore, the Nikkei 225 in Japan stepped back marginally from its recent all-time peaks, contrasting with the Topix index largely trading along the flat line. Over in South Korea, the Kospi observed a slight dip of 0.08%, accompanied by a 0.2% downturn in the small cap Kosdaq. Noteworthy news until South Korean defense manufacturer Hanwha Aerospace securing a hefty 1.38 trillion won, equivalent to $1 billion contract from Romania to furnish the nation with K9 howitzers. So that's all I have for today's market updates. And to give insight into markets, we have our guest today, Tina Teng, an independent market analyst based in Auckland, New Zealand. Tina, welcome to the show again.
Hi, Sam. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. All right, let's get into it. So we had the Fed Chair's Jerome Powell testimony yesterday and also later today. What have you gathered from, Wall Street movements so far, Tina?
For me, Powell's statement actually was more dovish than I thought, because he indicated that if you keep interest rates for too long, that could weaken the economic growth, which just a signal that the Fed would have to reduce interest rates later this year. Otherwise, we can see from the recent U.S. economic data that the economic growth is slowing down, especially in its labor market. The jobless rate is picking up to 4.1% from previously 3.9% early in this year. So that gives the markets actually a positive news that interest rates are coming down.
I see. Yes, that's what a lot of people are waiting for, right? The rate cuts. So how has Wall Street been reacting to this since the Jerome Powell's testimony? How has Wall Street been reacting?
We can see this Wall Street actually is just extends its rallying for a long time since this year. Especially this AI boom has been buoying the stock markets. I do think the technology shares, especially those Magnificent Seven stocks, are the primary components to push up the stock markets. So I think stock markets momentum might remain for now, especially at the conjunction of a rate cut by central banks. So that's growing expectations for the US Fed to cut interest rates in September, might be another time in November or December this year.
Lovely. So let's have a look at New Zealand, right? So somewhere close to home, Tina, we also have the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, the RBNZ rates decision. Could you share with us what's your outlook on that?
So the RBNZ is the same. They tend to a bit more dovish than previously. So this time they said inflation is coming down to their target level. However, they would keep the interest rate, the monetary policy at a restricted level for now. But the rhetoric is more dovish, which we can see reflecting in the markets. The New Zealand dollar has sharply dropped after the statement. At the same time, stock markets locally have gone up.
And so apart from that, we have some CPI data coming up, right? For the US, both US and China. So maybe we can just start with the US first. What's your outlook on the CPI data for US?
So the consensus says the CPI will likely cool further this time to 3.1% from 3.3% in the previous month. So that's a good signal for the markets as well, because therefore the strengthen for odds for the Fed to cut interest rates as early as September. So as for China, the CPI data came out actually weaker than expected. So that's also reflect the country actually experiencing a bumper economic recovery, especially the sluggish domestic demands.
All right. So is there any other data that we should be looking out for, Tina, apart from the testimony that Jerome Powell is going to give later today? Anything else that we should be looking out for?
So for Asian markets, there's another influential economic data from China, which is its trade balance data coming out on Friday. So that's a sentiment for global markets. If the economy right now is actually picking up, even though the inflation data actually can be weaker than expected, but actually the consumer price have been rising for the last 4 months. So it's still like in a stable phase of recovering, but just is more faltering than expected.
Okay, thank you so much, Tina, for being on the show.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, so this has been Vista Asian Midday Market Watch. Be sure to keep informed on the latest market updates weekdays at 1 p.m. I'm Samantha Voon, and this video and podcast will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, and our social media platforms. It will also be on our syndication partners' TV stations, radio stations, and website. Thanks for tuning in.